Welcome all. In this video, we will learn about bilateral agreements. On completion, students will be able to explain about bilateral agreements and understand about economic regulation in civil aviation.
Bilateral Air Services Agreement. A bilateral air services agreement is a treaty between two countries that defines the terms and conditions under which airlines from each country can operate international air services. The primary purposes of these agreements is to establish the rights, duties, and obligations of each country concerning international air traffic between them. Key aspects of bilateral air services agreements. Traffic rights. These agreements grants airlines the right to operate international flights between two countries they can specify. Designated carriers. Each country designates airlines authorized to operate flights between the two countries. Route rights specifies the routes that airlines can use. Capacity rights specifies the number of flights, number of seats, or frequency allowed on a route. Open skies provisions. Some aspects of bilateral air service agreement have provision that allow for greater flexibility and the removal of restrictions on the route and capacity. Types of bilateral agreements. Traditional bilaterals. These agreements are structured with specific routes, frequencies, and airlines designated to operate on each route. They are often restrictive and provide limited flexibility. Open skies agreement, a more liberal approach to bilateral agreements. Open skies agreements seek to remove restrictions on routes, frequencies, and pricing. These agreements aim to encourage competitions, reduce cost, and increase consumer choice. They allow airlines to operate more freely between signatory countries without many restrictions. Multilateral agreements. While the focus is usually on bilaterals, some regions or countries from multilateral agreements that provide framework for air traffic rights among multiple countries, allowing airlines to operate in multiple others under a shared framework. Economic regulations in civil aviation. Economic regulation in civil aviation focus on the commercial aspect of air travel, including pricing, competition, market entry, and capacity management. These regulations ensures that airlines operated in a competitive, fair, and financially sound environment. Key components of economic regulations: price regulation and tariff control. Economic regulations often control airfare pricing to prevent excessive charges and ensure that passengers are not subject to unfair or monopolistic pricing. While airlines are free to set their fares in many jurisdictions, they are usually required to file their tariffs with the aviation authority. Price transparency. Airline must disclose fare information and charges in a transparent manner to the public. Regulators may monitor fare changes and intervene in cases of suspected price fixing or predatory pricing. Market entry and exit. Route approvals. Before launching international routes, airlines often need to seek approval from aviation regulators who evaluate the market demand, capacity, availability, and other factors. Approval of new carriers. In some countries, including India, the Aviation Regulatory Authority needs to approve the entry of new carriers or service in the market. Role of DGCA in India in economic regulation. In India, the DGCA, Directorate General of Civil Aviation, plays a crucial role in enforcing economic regulation in the aviation sector. Regulations of airfare pricing. DGCA monitors the review airline pricing policies to ensure they are not exploitative or unfair. While India has largely moved to a market-driven approach, the DGCA retains oversight authority over pricing and tariffs. Market entry and licensing. The DGCA issues licensing to airlines and regulates their operations. Any airline seeking to operate international routes must apply for traffic rights under relevant bilateral agreements, and the DGCA facilitates this request, ensuring fair competition. The DGCA monitors the airline industry for anti competitive behavior and works to prevent monopolistic practices.